Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Petr Soukeník. I'm a guy who is responsible for our ISP sales, and I'm here today with Andronikos Kyriakou, our lead technical consultant, and we would like to share with you details about Whalebone, Peacekeeper, what is the product for the local and regional ISPs, what is combining protective DNS with network security, network management, and content filtering tools. And first of all, I would like to give you a question. If you have ever experienced IP blacklisting, I expect that if you are working in ISP environment, this is the standard situation you are experiencing quite a lot. Yeah, thank you, Imran, for your answer. And the reason for IP blacklisting is usually when there is something bad happening from your network. And usually that's the thing you have no control over it, because it can be triggered by the infection in the customer device. And usually customers are not very well, how to say it, like careful with their security and are clicking on everything. And you have tough job to block the impacts of it. And the Whalebone is able to check every traffic, every query going out of the network to block it, and to avoid having the malicious traffic going out, for example, from the infected device, attacking the Sony PlayStation centers, that would result in IP blacklisting of it. I will give you more examples later on, but let's have a look on some statistics. According to Cisco data, over 90% of malware use DNS resolution to act correctly. It means it needs to communicate to domain. There is usually, for example, botnet command and control center that is giving orders, commands to the botnet to do something, sending spam, amplifying those attacks, attacking other devices in the network. And according to the data from ISP Alliance from the United Kingdom, 88% of ISPs are under cyber attacks, and the amount of each year increasing. But what we know is that over 65% of organizations do not monitor DNS traffic at all. Usually the situation is like that. ISPs are using some cloud or on-premise solutions for a couple of years. On-premise is the better scenario, but they don't take care on what is going on the DNS traffic. And Whalebone is able to check it, and in the case it's relevant for blocking, to block it. And as a result, Whalebone is saving your time, because you don't need to solve issues from compliant clients who are actually infected. You are saving your connectivity. You are able to reduce issues with the even infected network components, such as microtic devices. Maybe you have noticed there is, in the last couple of days, there is discussion about Mary's botnet that is affecting microtic devices. So it's one of the issues Whalebone is able to get you alerted about it. And Whalebone is built upon 3 pillars. Actually, you can see here 4 points, but the 3 pillars are very fast, reliable, protective on-premise DNS. We have also clouds, but the on-premise is much better. I will later tell you why. Or let's mention it now. Because of latency, because of visibility to the private IPs, that with cloud resolvers you would see only like netted traffic behind the public IP. So you can see it better, and it's in your network, so you have full control over it. It is no black box. It's really possible to manage it completely from your own side. The second pillar is security. Security means checking if the traffic is malicious and giving you a chance to block it automatically without no need to take care about it manually. And last but not least, it is saving your resources. Our third pillar is to make the solution as much user-friendly for you as admins as possible, and to save your time. So that's the reason why we, for example, are able to provide you regulatory restrictions blocking. Like, for example, there is a regulatory restriction blocking for child abuse websites in the Philippines, gambling blocking all around the Europe almost. In the United Kingdom, you have a safe internet bill in the government right now, that is also forcing you to do more blocking. So we are able to take care about it. So these three pillars are very important. And we have a couple of questions here, and we will come to them. As I will finish the initial part, I think we will answer them all together. So Whalebone protects everything on the network level. So even the devices like IoT, smart devices, and so on, where it's not possible to deploy antivirus, are protected to do that. And from the business perspective, I have to mention it. In 2020, we were shortlisted as one of best cybersecurity solutions for ISPs in the UK. Over 200 networks around the world are using us as on-premise resolver. And in each moment, and this is not current, the actual number, we have around 7 million domains in the database. We will talk about it later. And I will shortly move to the technical part, and let's have a look on the DNS. And there are a couple of questions. I will answer them now. It is definitely Linux-based, or major Linux distributions, CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu, and the Red Hat Enterprise Linux are supported. And you just need to copy-paste the installation script from Wellborn to the Linux terminal to get it running. And after like 5-10 minutes, the resolver is ready, and you can forward the traffic to the resolver. And if the resolver is up and running, it is providing you latest standards. We are very strict in following DNSSEC requirements. We are able to provide you DNS over HTTPS or DNS over TLS. It's 100% ready for IPv6 and so on. It's fully scalable. You can have as much resolvers as you need. There is no pricing, additional pricing for number of resolvers. You can get it up and running, and you can easily forward the smallest networks. Actually, our smallest ISP customer is having around 50 customers, and also the largest networks. Like we have from the mid-sized ISPs, we have ISPs having like 200,000 subscribers, but we have also large telcos like O2 or Austria Telecom. And in each environment, it is very fast and very reliable, providing filtering, and is very appreciated for the way how easy it is to deploy it. It's possible to administer it via graphical user interface portal. It is possible to integrate it with your current systems. It's possible to make further analysis of all the data, and we will show you later product from the inside. But usually, people are asking, what's the proportion of blocking what is noticed by users and what is not noticed by users? We made internally a lot of checks of it, and we know that over 95% of the traffic is malicious traffic is generated without the attention of the user. User is, for example, clicking some website with free videos, free series, and the scripts in his browser are launched, and he just noticed that his computer is slower. It's something happening, but he has not seen any blocking in the case blocking is up and running. But this 5% what are triggered by the user who is typing the link to the web browser is resulting into showing the blocking page, and you can decide if you want to allow the user to have the chance to bypass the blocking and to see the button proceed anyway and to see the website. So it's possible to set it up. And really, this 95% that goes in the processes without the attention of the user is causing the vast amount of issues that you need to deal with. Another question what is usually asked by our customers is how is it different from the products like standard DNS using RPZ feed to integrate some blacklists, and why is it different? The difference is in the way how we use the threat intelligence. Because in the case you are just statically deploy some blacklists, you are deploying the whole content of the blacklist, even the false positive IOCs, the false positive domains, and you don't want to have false positives in your network and to get compliance by customers. So our neural network and our algorithms are getting all the data we have access to, like the public blacklist, private license blacklist from the cooperation with other antivirus and security vendors, and also our own analysis. Like, for example, we use machine learning to try to identify domain generation algorithm. We aggregate everything together, and we assign each domain a score, how much we believe it is dangerous, and you can decide how restrictive you want to be in your network. You will see it later on in the product demo. And based on that, we have around 7 million domains in each time that are currently used by malware, botnets, phishing campaigns, and so on to attack the users, the computers. And each day, around 150,000 domains are completely replaced in the database. For example, they are not compromised anymore, or even the domain is down, and the new domains are occurring. So we completely change them, and you don't need to do anything. It's actually done in the real time, and in each time you have like something where we believe that's good to be blocked in the ISP network. And let's have a look on use cases. The use cases are very broad topic because the malware can get a lot of problems into your network. So I have selected a couple of examples that are quite often. First is that time to time, even your company is being attacked. Like, for example, as you can see here, the T-Mobile here is offering to some customers something like free gift, free mobile. And in effect, it's just like attacker trying to steal the customer data and using the brand of the company. It's also affecting small ISPs, and that's the way you can get protected against it. Second one, on the right corner, is a very known malware phishing infection that is using leaked phone numbers and is sending such a short message texts that are informing customer, hey, your parcel is arriving, you can track it here. But in effect, something bad is happening after opening it. In the case Whalebone is in your network, the one on the left side would not appear to the customer. The one on the right side would not allow him to open this website and to get his data stolen. I have here one example about how bad can be if you have some infected device like MikroTik, Ubiquiti, TP-Link in your network. Here is the screenshot from our portal, and this huge amount of incidents was caused by the two Ubiquiti devices that were trying to open around 500,000 malicious domains in 1 hour and trying to communicate with the command control center. The ISP experienced it right after the trial was deployed to their network, and they have contacted us. Hey guys, are you sure that's true? Isn't it a mistake? We have checked it, and we told them, yeah, that's true. You have probably there two infected Ubiquiti devices. Try to look on this following local IP addresses, and actually on these private IPs, they have found them. They were able to upgrade them, and issues stopped. And as a result, they were also receiving less incoming DOS attacks to their network. Our hypothesis is that in the case you have some compromised devices in the network, attackers know that the network is not protected, and they are trying to focus on the network, and better to say IP ranges more, and trying to get their more infected devices. In the case they receive less incidents there, their algorithm are not affecting the network as much as with infected devices. So the amount of incoming those attacks even decreased after Whalebone was deployed to this network. Another reason why to use not only security filtering on the DNS level, but also good on-premise DNS resolver is because it has a massive impact on how fast are services to customers loaded. Here's the example from a very small network having around 1,000 subscribers. And before deploying Whalebone, the IPTV service was loaded in 15 seconds. When Whalebone was deployed, it decreased to 4 seconds. And really, it is now very fast, and the users pay them for IPTV service, and they like that the service is loaded faster. And it is because of better DNS resolver. Another another example that is connected with malware is that in the case you have infected device, it can be misused for example, building up a proxy in your network and allowing somebody to start using your network IPs for other attacks, for other unwanted behavior. And it's actually happening quite often. So we are able to identify, to block this communication, and to protect you against having a proxy that is not made on intention in your network. And I will close and sum up this use cases presentation with short mentioning what Whalebone is not only about technical perspective, but it can also help you from the business perspective. You can use it as a marketing differentiation. You can tell your customers that for very short, actually, you will not mention them, but it's for very small price. But you are protecting them against malware, even if they have no antivirus. It's enough to start using your network, and you can show that you are better than your competitors because you are providing such a solution. In the more advanced integration, you can even start selling them content filtering and security as a service, as a value-added service, and to integrate it into your systems. I can later on provide, in the case you or your business guys would be interested, I can provide more details in the separate call. And I have mentioned the pricing already. This is the pricing in euros, but for pricing converted to dollars or pounds, you just need to use your currency conversion rate or ask me for the indicative offer. And what we have a minimum monthly subscription fee. That's 65 euros per month. And if your network is larger, you are paying 6.5 euro cents for one subscriber. What we understand as one subscriber. One subscriber is a contract about providing the internet to the household, residential customer, or to the business customer. So in the case you have 2,000 residential customers, 1,000 business customers, you need 3,000 licensees. And in the case you are from larger networks, like tens of thousands of subscribers, we have some price levels discounts for the larger networks. So feel free to ask me for the indicative offer after the trial, and when you provide me details about your network, I will tell you the pricing. And let's move to technicals. Before I will ask Andronikos to continue, what I want to mention is what, as already mentioned, we are offering cloud-based resolvers and on-premise resolvers. I definitely recommend to all ISP, regardless of the size of the ISP, to start using on-premise resolvers because you are not dependent on the third party. And for example, a lot of ISPs are using Google Cloud DNS. What is happening is that they have rate limiting, and some of the ISPs they have even they were even able to overcome this rate limiting, and the internet stopped working due to that. But that's not the only reason. The other reasons start using on-premise resolvers is because you have it in your network. It's much faster. You can see it. You can control it. It's no black box. And it's actually really easy to deploy it. I have noticed that Andronikos wrote here a couple of technical information, so he will later on maybe continue. But what I want to mention is that it's really easy to deploy it. And every time I'm showing this slide, the person on the other side of the line is asking me, really, is it so fast? And when they have deployed it, they confirm that they were able to do it even faster. Because really, what you need to do is to have a virtual machine with Linux for networks up to 15,000 subscribers. It's these 2 CPU cores, 4 gigs of RAM, and 40 gigs on the hard drive. For larger networks, you need to scale it up in the mean of CPU cores and RAM, but we can calculate it for you. And as soon as you have this virtual machine, you copy paste the script, and you can forward the traffic there. The traffic forwarding is made by orchestration in your network. Maybe you are using DHCP, PPPoE, or Radius to distribute the DNS setting. So that's the proper place. If you are not doing that and you have your on-premise resolver, it's just easy to take the IP address of the current resolver and to use it for the machine with Wellborn, and it is forwarded. And in the case you have like, let's say, hard-coded some IPs of public resolvers in your network, in your customer CPEs, it's possible to use destination mapping and to forward the whole port 53 traffic to Whalebone. And that's the deployment. And after the deployment, you will immediately see the data in the Wellborn portal, and you will be able to see what's going on there in the network. And that was the last slide I have ready. And I would like to ask Andronikos to join us. And before you will do it, Andronikos, and I will switch off my mic, please go through the chat if there are any questions, and let's discuss them if necessary. So it's yours.
Thank you very much, Peter. Hope you can hear me, everyone, and good morning. Let me start sharing my screen. All right. So together we're going to go over the administration portal of the solution. So mainly we're going to see Whalebone from the inside. What are the features that you can configure, what it looks like, how you can administer the solution. There is a question in the chat before we start. What are the hardware requirements for 20,000, 30,000 people? All in all, definitely we can reach out and discuss what are the requirements of the individual networks. Our recommendation is in our technical documentation that the minimum requirements are 2 CPU cores, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 40 gigabytes of hard disk. These requirements are able to support 10 to 20,000 users depending on the use case. And we are actually operating system agnostic, so we are able to work with all the latest operating systems. The installation of a Whalebone resolver, which is actually the main component, it's pretty easy. I will show you later on. But all in all, as Peter has mentioned, the main component that we're talking about are the Whalebone DNS resolvers. When you log in to the administration portal, you see your list of resolvers, and you can very easily create new ones. There is no limit, let's say test resolver. So if you would like to install a new resolver really easily, you can just copy to clipboard this command, paste it on the Linux terminal, and that's it. The installation starts, and the new resolver is up and running in less than a few minutes. What can you see actually? Let's say we have our resolvers. Here we have two resolvers installed. This is actually real data coming from a small network, from a small ISP here in Czech Republic. We have some agreement with them, and we are showing the data in an anonymized manner. So these are actually two resolvers that are operating in real time and are feeding data. When you click on the resolver, you can see rich statistics, you can get information about what is going on in the network, you can monitor the latency of the DNS request, you can see how fast the resolvers are responding. Here we can see almost 90% of the requests have been answered in under 1 millisecond. You can also monitor the health check of the resolvers, whether everything is okay with all the components are working properly, everything is green. And of course, monitoring the hardware resources and usage, so the CPU utilization, the memory utilization, and this usage. Absolutely, we can set up alerts on those. We will see it later during the webinar, and we can also send reports which have all this information. Whenever we have a new release, you can very simply upgrade the resolvers. It's a single click. You have the latest release, you select the date, and you just upgrade it. Before jumping into the more details, what you can get with the resolvers, I would like to go based on the configuration. So the main component that you can configure in the solution is the security policy. So what is a security policy? A security policy is a set of all the settings that you can apply to your resolvers and also apply to different ranges of your network. So you can have multiple security policies and apply it to different profiles. The first thing that you can notice here in the top of the security policies is the security policy. So all in all, what you see is the blocking threshold. And I will take a few minutes to discuss what is the blocking and the auditing threshold. As Peter mentioned before, in our solution, there's a set of threat intelligence processing going on in our cloud, which is calculating the reputation score of domains. This score is in the range of 0 to 100, and the higher the score is, the more malicious we believe the domain to be at this point in time. So we give to you as administrators the option to say we want in our network or in this segment of our network to block all the domains that have a score over 80, right? You can be as strict as you would like. You can block everything over 60 or everything over 90. It's up to you. Our recommendation, though, is to block everything over 80 or else block carefully. There is another threshold, which is called audit threshold. And what it means is that if a domain has a score between 50 and 80, then we are not blocking the access to the domain, but we are just logging that as suspicious. And what that means is that you can see indications of suspicious behavior in your network without blocking it, allowing us to do a what-if analysis and calculate the best threshold for your network. Of course, we do not expect that all networks are the same, although we normalize the scores. By default, all the threat types are included, and we will go through the threat types when we see some examples of threats that we have been blocked in the network. But I would like to also speak a bit about the allow and deny lists, where you can actually set up domains or different lists of domains and assign them to your policies. So for example, we can create a new allow list, put there some domain, some test.com, and save it. As soon as we apply this allow list to this security policy, all the domains that will be there will never be filtered. In the same manner, we can do that with deny lists. If you have some domains that you know for a fact that are malicious, you can put them there and block them for your whole network. Another interesting features, which we see that it's greatly appreciated, is these regulatory restrictions. So as Peter mentioned, different countries have different regulatory restriction requirements. Currently, we support several countries out of the box. So we support Austria, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Philippines, Serbia, Slovakia, and the United Kingdom. They have different requirements. Some of them have regulation for gambling domains. Some others have regulations for domains that are linked with child abuse. So out of the box, we can help you have this check in your regulatory restrictions. All in all, if you're coming from a country that is not already supported, just get in touch with us and we will gladly add another country or discuss the possible integrations. In terms of content filtering, this is actually a different feature than the security filtering. We have several categories that you can select out of the box. So let's say in the adult category, we can select the gambling domains, the sexual content domains, the porn domains, or the weapons domains that are linked with guns and violence. Um, in the crime, we can select the child abuse domains that are linked with child abuse, that are distributing child abuse material, drugs, racism, terrorism, violence, etc. Also, in the entertainment, you can block some social networks potentially, or disallow chatting applications, or even audio video. All in all these features can be linked together, can be saved together to create different security policies, as we said. So for example, we can have a base security policy for our whole network, but if we would like to also protect a school, and we would know that a school is coming from a particular IP range, we could prepare a more strict security policy, enable the adult content filtering, block child abuse domains, etc., and apply it to this particular network. So how we can do it is we can go to the resolvers and based on here, the policy assignment, we can say, I want to put the particular policy to the particular ranges. So in all the ranges, we have the default policy, but for the schools, let's say, we have this more strict policy, and in this matter, we can save the network. Okay, let's take a minute to answer questions in the chat.
Okay, there were a couple of questions. I was trying to answer them meanwhile. So let's start with the question: what is the core of Whalebone? And I was writing that it's not resolver. It's the open source resolver, one of the main on the market. Andronikos will show it here, and it's actually also from the Czech Republic, same country as we are. It's used by Cloudflare also, and we, according our benchmarks and testings, this is the best resolver in the market currently. We moved to another resolver 2 years ago. We have been using previously Unbound, and actually that was one of the best decisions from the technical perspective to move there, because it's really very easy, scalable. It's a very attentive to all RFCs. It's very fast, and it's connected with another question. And Pavelas is asking if there is any appliance redundancy functionality, like if they can load balance between multiple devices and so on. So Andronikos, please, can you slightly describe what are the usual scenarios by our users?
Absolutely. So I will touch Anycast latest. The first and most usual scenario that we see is the setup with primary secondary resolvers. So operators are either running two resolvers, one primary and one secondary, or they install one primary resolver, and as a backup, they use our cloud resolvers as a secondary. They can have the same security policies, the same functionality on those. The second scenario is to install two resolvers behind a load balancer. So we can have the resolvers advertise the load balancer IP, and these resolvers be behind the load balancer, so at any time have availability. The third option, and the fourth as well, is the Anycast. So for the Anycast setup, there are two options. Either we can do the monitoring on the router level, or we can do it on the resolver level. If we are doing the Anycast monitoring on the router level, and that of course depends on the router technology. The majority of the routers are able to do health checks on the DNS service. And if the service is available, then route the traffic to that. If it's not, then consider this path as unavailable. The other option is, as Peter mentioned on the chat, that we can have a daemon on the resolvers, which is based on bird, yeah, and which is health checking the resolvers and enabling or disabling some route. So both are available. This is mainly during the initial discussions where we can agree what would be best for your network and plan it together. All right. So
there were actually more questions. Another one is about hardware resources, and if you can tell Andronikos what is the formula, for how much queries per second you need or the user needs to add more resources, please.
right. So all in all, from our benchmarks, we know that each CPU core is able to handle 8 to 10,000 queries per second. This is around 10 to 15,000 users. However, we can agree on what would be the best sizing for the network based on the expected load. So all in all, we can scale it up, so we can add more CPU cores at any time, especially if we're talking about virtual machines. Or we can scale it out based on the highly availability scenarios that we just discussed. We can have multiple resolvers, multiple points of presence, and share the traffic.
Okay, and there is another question. Let's move to DNS firewall, or how to call it. We are actually working on what Pavel is asking now. If it is possible to set a limit per client IP to avoid DDoS from inside of the network. And Andronikos, can you tell us, actually, it's not there now. It's possible to be based on the advanced DNS scripting, as Andronikos is showing, but we are currently doing the DNS firewall setting in the graphical user interface. So can you, Andronikos, provide more details on this topic?
Right. So as has been mentioned also in the questions but before, our solution is based on not resolver, right? So from our side, we offer a fully functional graphical interface where we can configure all the scripting functionality that not resolver has to offer. So in the DNS resolution part of the portal, we can have some rules. We are reworking that currently, but the current shape is that we can select IPv6, enable or disable it, forward queries to particular other resolvers or following particular domains. This is more for the internal networks. Have some static records on the resolver, host them on the resolver, or even go into more scripting. So into more detail, we can have some particular ranges that we would like to allow always, or block some other particular ranges. Of course, there are several configuration tricks that we can do based on what you would like actually to achieve. In terms of denial of service from inside the network, well, there are several questions, several topics there we can discuss. Our resolvers are doing the fully DNSSEC validation. So we are protecting essentially both the resolvers and the clients and the name servers by returning out of the box and directly from the cache these NX domains in case we know that this is a random subdomain attack or some other kind of denial of service attack.
Okay, there is another question regarding pricing, and Imran is asking if there is any billing logic for the number of resolvers. And as Pavelas is mentioning already, it's not built based on the number of resolvers. You can actually have as much resolvers as you wish. And the reason for that is because we want to make your network really as stable as possible. And we know that you need more resolvers. So we don't actually give any limit. You can have even like 20, 30, 50, if necessary. It's up to you completely. So feel free to have them even more. And there are no other questions. So Andronikos, I think you can continue, and we will make a break after a couple of more questions will be there. Thanks.
Great. So one of the questions during Peter's discussion was whether we can actually define our very own custom redirection pages, right? So again, from the configuration menu and from the blocking pages submenu, you can create as many blocking pages as you would like and have them again in the same manner as the policies. So have them per segment of your network. So if we go to one of the blocking pages, you can have multiple locales, you can have multiple versions of the blocking page, and you can have your very own custom domain, which will be served by the blocking page. In each blocking page, there are several different flavors. So there are different options. There's the security, there's the blacklist, the regulatory, and the content. So based on the type of the blocking, based whether it was a malicious incident, based on whether the domain was in your own denial list, based on whether this domain is regulated, or based if this a content-based filtering, you can show different messages to the users and have different options. For example, let's go to the security blocking page. Out of the box, you can really easily use our guide and choose some logo that you would like to put some information about your company, some information about where they should reach you, or what is the legal text, the case for the regulatory. So what's the law that's actually regulating the traffic. And very easily, this all changes the HTML code. If you'd like to go even deeper, you can have access to the full HTML code, modified, put there your own colors, um, your own schemes there, everything. So you can fully rebrand it. Another option, which actually is really useful for the ISPs, is the option to give to the users the bypass functionality. So in case this is a security incident and you would like to allow your users to bypass the blocking page, even though you do not recommend it, you can put a special bypass button, which the users can click and go to the destination page. Of course, that's up to you. And there are different options based on different pages. For example, the bypass button is not available in case of the regulatory filtering, right? Great. So if you have any question regarding the blocking pages, anything that you will need more clarification, feel free to let us know in the chat and we will be glad to do so. Another thing we would like to share with you is actually the threads, because so far we have been discussing that Whalebone is doing security filtering, Whalebone is doing content filtering, but what actually can we see? How can we actually understand that it's working, right? So if you go to the threads tab of the admin portal, you can see that there are several tabs, several options, several interfaces. The main interface has a histogram of the different types of threads. So you can filter based on the action, based on whether the request was blocked, whether the request was audited, or whether the request was allowed. Also, you can filter based on, you can see a number of unique client IP addresses that are infected in the network and the unique domains that have been blocked in the last days. So now we are filtering for the last 7 days. We can go even to the past. There are several categories being identified by the Whalebone resolvers. So we have the malware domains, we have the command and control servers, we have the phishing domains, we have the coin miners, etc. So you can filter based on all of these categories, or even filter based on individual domains and client IPs. At the same time, we give you some information about what are the domains that have been, what are the threat types that have been in the network. So in this particular ISP network, we have Krakonos infections, we have domains that are actually linked to this malware, which is being installed by some torrents. There is the Triada. This is a mobile malware. There is MikroTik. So we have seen infection on MikroTik devices, or even Expiro, which is a particular botnet. You can filter actually based on individual categories. So let's say we would like to be more cautious and see what are the command and control centers that are being communicated, what's going on. And so here we can see under normal circumstances, we would see client IP addresses. So this is anonymized because this is the partner network, but we can see that this particular IP address is communicating with this Expiro botnet. So we know that there's an Expiro infection on this IP address. Of course, there is a dedicated context menu. So if you believe that you would like to add some particular domain, so you would like to add a domain to the allowed list or to denied list, or search using some external search engines, or even report the domain as a false positive, you can do it directly from the very same page. But the easiest thing to do when you would like to understand more about the domain is to use the domain analysis, which is a tool which we make available to all the administrators, and understand what Whalebone knows about the domain. So for example, this particular domain, this kidosbank.ru, we know that it's part of the Expiro botnet. Three of our sources are letting us know that this is malicious domain. There are several indicators of the threats. And this particular domain is not categorized as part of some content category or some regulatory category. If we would like to test, let's say, some social media, some social network, we could see facebook.com, and this is part of the social networks category. Before delving into the DNS traffic, is there some question already? There was one.
Actually, there was a question regarding if how to protect the cloud administration against misusing it, and the solution for that, like for example, storing the password, is using two-factor authentication, what is the default part of Wellborn system. And actually, I know what part of the our competitors are having it only in the advanced version, so it's default in Wellborn. And the second way how to do that is to set IP restrictions and to allow only a given set of IP addresses to access your administrator portal. So there is no need to be afraid of having your portal misused. And what we also do, I think Andronikos would show it later on, but let's mention it now. We recommend you, in the case you have more people who are dealing with technical issues in the network, to give them to access to Whalebone with the proper user roles, like, for example, just reading the threads overview or DNS traffic overview without any way how to change the setting and so on, so that it gives you a chance to allow your first level support to have a look in the case there is any complaint about, let's say, about how fast is the network, and they can have a look in the Whalebone if there is any infection going, so they can tell the customer, hey, I can see that from the technical perspective everything is okay, but I can see that you have a huge amount of some, let's say, crypto coin mining or of some botnet infection. So probably that's the reason you can or you should deploy antivirus and infect your device.
Yes, definitely.
And another question here is regarding the licensing, and if we count IPv4 or IPv6 clients. Actually, what we do, and it can sound quite strange for you, we first of all ask you how much users you have, because you know it much better than we. And we believe the number you are telling us. So in the case you will tell us you have 6,000 subscribers, including hotspots, including business customers, we will use it as a base of pricing. We are for sure able to check it out based on the number of DNS queries is the best metric for us, because we know what in each country average user is able to generate some specific amount of DNS queries. So we can use it for controlling, but we don't build based on the number of IPs. That's just the indicator in the case some user needs to get pricing and he or she is not feeling good enough sharing with us the number about the subscriber base. I'm asking about the number of IPs or queries per second, and I can calculate it based on it. Because we know with IPv6 is very tricky because each device in the network can have its own IPv6. So if we have to choose between IPv4 and IPv6, we would definitely use IPv4, but that's not the good way to go. The good way to go for us is to ask you, and if there are any issues, to count it based on the number of DNS queries. So, Andronikos, I think you can continue.
Great, great. So if I may add to this role-based, the first part of the question, to this role-based access, we definitely have several roles that you can use in your network. And also we can have a second level of authentication, both on accessing the resolver, but also before authorizing the changes in the resolvers. So as Peter mentioned, there's a dedicated CLI which you can use to authorize any action that is initiated by the cloud. And it's here from the technical perspective important to note that all the connections are being initiated from the resolvers to the cloud and not vice versa. So we do not expect you to give access to the incoming traffic from our cloud. Everything is mutually TLS encrypted and secured, so there is no issue there. Continuing and delving on the DNS traffic, of course, we give you access to all the DNS traffic. We are providing you all the timeline, the DNS request based on the client IP, based on particular domains. Of course, you can see the full filters here. You can see the client IP, what was the query, aggregate based on level 2 domain, what was the response. However, there are two cases we would like to share with you. The first one is our neural network, which is protecting against domain generation algorithm. And you can really easily filter on that. You can go to the filter, PGA, and see what are the results of the neural network. We have filtered for that already. And if you would also filter for the answer with NX domain, which is a characteristic of the NX domain, and go for the client IPs, you can see that there are particular IP addresses which are constantly probing for domains that are looking weird, that are looking algorithmically generated, and they're getting NX domains. So there's a very high chance that these clients are actually infected. From our side, we definitely use this information to improve our threat intelligence, but this is a good indication for you as administrators to know what is going on in the network. Another case that we actually see very often is spammers. So a use case here is someone who is doing a lot of MX requests constantly, and maybe they are getting some responses such as NX domain or surfail. So if we would filter for the clients that are having MX requests for mail servers, getting NX domain answers and NX domain requests, you can see here that there are several instances where some particular users, some particular IP addresses are having a constant flow. So most probably there is some issue there, and you can actually detect it. All this information, we send it via reports. We do not have them only on the admin portal. We send them via weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly reports. You can set up multiple recipients and the language of the report. I can show you one report example. Reload it. So my local file is not loading, so I will show it from here. You have the whole histogram of reports, so you can download any older report. PDFs are not loading today. Okay, great. And you can get all the information every month, every Monday on your inbox. So you can have all the information aggregated in your inbox and be able to control your network. Of course, we have a dedicated API which you can query, so you can get all the information, not only from the reports, not only from the portal, but if you would like to do another integration, you can have all the threads that we identify integrated to your system. You can get all the DNS traffic, all the resolver metrics. So it's really easy for you to actually interconnect with us and build on the resolvers so you have full control of your network. The last thing I would like to touch is that all the resolvers.
I'm sorry, Andrew Nicholas, before you will touch it, there's an interesting question here. And let's come back to how it is deployed and what's the latency because of the deployment. I have already answered to the chat that everything is deployed on-premise in the network, and everything is cached there. For sure, what is not cached has to be cached, but we are not asking our data centers. We are asking how to say it technically correctly. We are asking
Well,
yeah, explain this, please.
yes, it will be my pleasure. So we are talking now about the local resolver scenario, right? We are not talking about the cloud resolver. So the resolvers are fully operating on premise. So all the thread database, all the data are in the cache of the DNS resolvers. We are not doing online lookups every time that you would like to do a resolution. All the threat intelligence is propagated from our cloud to your on-premise resolvers. And whenever a user is asking, then everything is answered from the cache. So all in all, they're normal resolvers with the added layer of protection.
Yes. But what will happen with this small amount of queries that are not cached? Is there any added latency comparing to standard resolvers? And I think there is no added latency. That's as fast as other resolvers, right?
That's right. That's right. Actually, can you mute yourself, please? Thanks. Actually, the not resolver is having quite a very clever way of doing the lookups. So in comparison with bind or unbound, we have seen way better results in terms of latency. So all in all, the resolver is operating as a pure and normal DNS resolver. It is just having the filtering layer, which is not adding any latency. It's in less than nanoseconds, the filtering that is there.
Yes, so it will not ask our data center or something. It will go directly to the place where is the what's called the data about what has to be resolved and how accessed. So comparing to the deployment that Imran has described here, but he has unbound that is asking Cloudflare, it will miss this part asking Cloudflare, and it will ask directly to the authoritative server, and will be processed from your network directly to the authoritative server. So there can be latency in the case the authoritative server is somewhere far away. But in this case, it will be such a minor issue, not issue, question, query, that you or your user will not experience it at all. And the best what you can do is really to try it on yourself, because you don't need to believe us. Feel free to deploy Whalebone. You don't need to forward there any users. Deploy it on the same way as your unbound is deployed in the network, and try to ResPerf performance benchmark. And I can share with you later on the step-by-step guide, and you can see if there is any difference between Whalebone and between unbound combined with Cloudflare. That's actually the best and very easy way how to do that and how to check it out. We are not able to tell what's your network topology and so on, so it's up to you. And regarding the testing of Whalebone, we've usually allows it for 14 days. It's actually very enough time for even the largest networks. But in the case you would need more time, that's definitely possible to discuss it and to extend the trial period. We have never turned off the trial in the case these 14 days were over. nothing will happen. Like for example, we would not never ever stop resolving if the trial is over. The only thing you will experience is that we will contact you and ask you to move forward and to give your feedback, your position, your opinion, so that we can also move forward from our side. Yeah. So Andron, you can continue.
Yeah. So we're running a bit out of time. So the last thing that I would like to share with you are the alerts. So during the discussion, we said what happens if there is some failure, there is some issue in the resolver. You can set up alerts directly from the admin portal. You can send them to your email, to your Slack, to your webhook, wherever. And we can actually set different types of alerts. So for the DNS traffic, for the resolver, for the threads. And it's up to you how you would like. Of course, we are open to feature requests. So if you would like to monitor something different, that's up to you. But all in all, in terms of monitoring the resolvers, we have several integrations. We have SNMP integration, we have Prometheus integration, we have API integration. So you can really be on top of the resolvers and what's going on in your network.